And actually, we told the BP guys, I don't like that. We don't like that term. BP should change alternative energy into renewable energy. So I do not agree that renewable should be an alternative. It should be part of the solution. Now, the reason why it's such a big issue, there are two things why this is important for Indonesia. First of all, the biggest cause of climate change, the biggest symptom is rising sea level. And rising sea level will affect our territorial integrity, or in Bahasa, integritas NKRI, will cause shifting boundaries. We will lose, if we lose islands, we will lose millions, thousands of square kilometers of fishing ground, which means it will affect our food security. Talking about food security, the other effect of climate change is unpredictable extreme weather patterns. And extreme weather patterns will affect our food security, will affect our crop, will affect our harvest. So this is very important as well. Now, for me, I'm from the private sector. Before I joined the devil and became a politician, I was in the private sector before, so I like to see solutions. Now, one of the biggest problems, and I've known this learning from Pak Rida, Pak Halim, Pak Rida, my seniors in Commission 7, from industry experts in general. The biggest problem with renewable, in my opinion, is that it will never be the base load of any electricity generation as long as it's intermittent. As long as, wind doesn't blow 24 hours a day at the exact same speed. The sun doesn't shine at the same intensity. Sometimes you get sunlight, sometimes you get cloudy days. In European countries, in Scandinavia, you get lots of light in the summer, you get very little light in winter. So the biggest problem is grid stability. So in my view, I think, especially Pak Magnizon, your colleagues in PLN and onwards should focus more on grid investments in smart grid stability. Jaringan itu penting banget, Pak. It's impossible to have renewable be part of the conversation, to be part of the mix. If PLN, every time I talk to PLN guys, PLN people keep saying, aduh Pak, itu nggak stabil Pak. Yeah, of course we know it's not stable. It doesn't there's no sunshine at night, duh. So what you need is to make sure that the technology is good enough to have stable power source. It's impossible to have renewable be part of the conversation, to be the dominant main source of electricity, as long as you don't prepare, like for example, battery packs, as long as you don't prepare grids, and also, and I understand what that's basically one of the first ones, to have smart grid. Another reason why you need to have smart grid is, PLN is, according to the State-Owned Companies Act, Undang-Undang BUMN, you have to be profit-driven. We understand that, but you keep saying, oh, but there's no demand yet, and so on and so forth. Well, with renewable, there is plenty of demand. Just one example, in Bali, I know that there are a lot of 5-star hotels willing to pay at a much higher rate of electricity as long as they know that the electricity is generated from renewable. I spoke with your colleague, Pak Magnizon, who's in charge of Bali. I spoke with some of your other colleagues in PLN, and there seems to be no solution yet on how to provide different rates for renewable generated electricity. I know, for example, that the Marriott Hotel in Medan, they're willing to pay higher electricity rate as long as they know it's from renewable source. I talked to your PLN guys, and they haven't given me any answer. So PLN needs to come up with a solution where you can charge higher prices to customers who are willing to pay higher prices as long as it comes from renewable. This is a market. This is demand-driven. I mean, if people like Pak Halim can charge a lot more money to these eco resorts, I'm sure he'll be happy. I know a lot of my friends in the renewable sector will be happy. So PLN needs to come up with a solution on how to manage your grid so you can charge higher prices to customers who get electricity from renewable. That way, Pak Rida will be happy so that his targets are met in the renewable directorate. So for me, as a believer in market forces, we have to be able to cater to those who are willing to pay different rates. And also at the same time, we need to be able to create a very stable grid so that renewable can be part of the conversation. Sure, I think in the long run, gas and coal will still be the base load, but we need to wean ourselves off, get away from that, and become renewable. And we need to be able to provide electricity even when when there's no wind, and even when there's no sun. So I think PLN, you guys should invest more, and SDM, you guys should prepare more in investment in grid. And I think that's what I will have to say. I'm sure there'll be more questions later on. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Pak Halim Kala. Yeah. Pak Aryo is private to the Commission 7. Now, Pak Halim is Commission 7 now back to private.
Yeah. Maybe he's the smart one.
Okay. Okay, next.
Thank you, Pak. Hello. This is my turn. Well, let me introduce myself. My name is Halim Kala. I'm the Vice Chairman of Chamber of Commerce Industry Indonesia, especially focused on renewable energy and environment. So as a small paper, maybe I can read first of all, yeah, then later discussion. So development of renewable energy in Indonesia is very important to be implemented as the way to increase the mixed energy, because our country rich in energy resource, but right now we still focus on the use of energy fossil, and that kind of energy is not sustainable and surely someday will diminish. And in addition, the impact of the use of renewable energy is making the environment clean, and is in line of COP21 meeting in Paris regarding climate change, which Indonesia is signed and actively participate. Moving from energy fossil to renewable energy, not only technically feasible, but also economically. Indonesia, until now, 2017, already have an installed capacity of renewable energy, only 11% of the total energy installed all over Indonesia. It's around 6,000 megawatt. That majority dominated by the use of hydropower, which has installed capacity about 4,000 megawatt, and geothermal with capacity of 1,500 megawatts, something around. Both engines still far from the potential capacity that could be developed, such as hydro maybe can be deployed until 10,000 megawatt, and geothermal about 7,500 megawatt. Another danger from other renewable energy which used in Indonesia, which has installed still capacity right now, like a solar power around 11.2 megawatt, wind power around 300 kilowatt, biomass 130 megawatt, and biogas and waste to power is still less than megawatt. So we are far behind. Government Indonesia has targeted by year 2025 renewable energy usage of about 23% of total electricity power generated in Indonesia. And the question is whether we can achieve that target. The successful of use energy, renewable energy in one country, that's depend on two things: deployment policy and one deployment policy and pricing. It is interesting. If it interests and profitable, the private investor will certainly to invest its capital and technology in this field. In other countries in Asia, such as China, Korea, and Japan, they are already very advanced in the use of renewable energy, as it is considered clean and sustainable energy. In the Asian region, such as Thailand, usage has reached 22%, which now already install solar power about 2,000 megawatt and biomass around 1,000 megawatt. Even Malaysia presently has around 40,000 megawatt installed electricity and already exceeds over 25% of the demand, but still they put renewable energy as a priority. And right now it's already installed capacity of 500 megawatt of solar power plant and under 500 megawatt under construction. Indonesia is behind from other countries in Asia in the use of renewable energy in terms of installed capacity. So many countries around the world now adopt clean and sustainable energy policy as they start reducing the use of coal-based power plant as much as 48%, and even 62% they stop when they adjust the construction. Like the city of Shanghai in early 2017 already shut down all the coal-based power plant in the city. It concern of public health because it's pollution, and the city spent about $300 million of public medical and treatment, and number who die as a result of the pollution each year approximately 350,000. So this is very costly. For that reason of that, electricity power in Shanghai now dependent all to clean energy or renewable energy. On the other hand, Indonesia, in the 35,000 megawatt program in Java Island, a 7-unit ongoing project of giant power plant from the coal energy resource, such as Java Power Plant has a 7 plant now. Each of them has a 2,000 megawatt. So in total, by 2019, Indonesia has a 15,000 new coal or power plant. And the price of the LN buy is very cheap, 5 cents maybe. Because the government building many giant coal plant in Java, and to balance the mixed energy, therefore the government should strong use of renewable energy in other outside Java, especially in small island in the area eastern part of Indonesia, where mostly they use energy diesel generator now. The new government issue PP 12 or 18 is a guide price of renewable energy.